Good morning, traders. Welcome to the pre-market analysis that we open up to the public every single Wednesday. This is Spartan speaking, by the way. Happy to see you guys this morning. And you guys have a little bit of a breakdown of what's going to happen today. Once I'm done speaking here, Beth's going to come on and give you a breakdown of the macro environment, any bigger picture items that make sense to be looking at, ETFs, commodities, et cetera, et cetera. Once that's done, I'm going to come on, go through the individual names that I'm looking at that are gapping up, gapping down. We'll go through the news that's associated with those names that are gapping up, gapping down, build an action plan for them from a technical perspective, as well as go through the SPY, the FANG, the VIX, Qs, and IWM. After that's done, South Beach will come on, go through any individual names that he's looking at for today, macro environment, as well as any analyst calls for the day that catches his eye. And then we'll do a quick little recap of those individual names that I talked about this morning, as well as the SPY and the FANG, and the IWM and QQQ, and the VIX. And we should be ready for the open. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead, pass it over to Beth, and I will talk to you guys shortly. Beth, if you're ready, it's all yours.
I am indeed. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome. Wednesday morning here, pre-market at SpartanTrading.com. This is what we do every day. And I want to give a warm welcome to those of you who are joining us, new members, as well as those joining us from our live YouTube stream. Okay, we got a lot to talk about. I'm a little cranky on a couple things, but we're going to do a deep dive on Macau. We're going to do a deep dive on China, where we stand with that whole narrative. And then we'll move on in terms of FANG, yada, yada, yada. Okay, what happened? Well, first off, well, we got a non-farm payroll number, right? That was kind of crazy. We've got the sky didn't fall yesterday in terms of the inflation rates, right? But what was really shocking, well, two things were shocking, but this was really shocking. Retail sales in China dropped dramatically year over year, 7.5 to 2%. That's a big deal, right? This is what they're admitting to. I shouldn't say that, but anyways, they can say whatever they want to say. You know what I mean, okay? I don't want to sound pejorative or anything like that. But they can say whatever they want to say, okay? But everything else is okay. Industrial production was softer too. We know that there's issues in terms of the virus going through China again, the Asia Pacific rim, right? Okay, so let's move forward. Industrial production out of Europe, and this is the narrative we've been discussing, right? We want to have exposure overseas in Europe. The emerging markets is really tricky because of the China component, because Baba, Tencent, those are considered emerging market stocks. So we have to be careful with that. But the narrative still stays the same in terms of Europe, UK, et cetera, that we want to have exposure there. Okay. Today we have import-export prices, New York, Empire State, industrial production, capacity utilization, yada, yada, yada. Natural gas going absolutely bonkers. We've been playing it. I got out of it because I thought the risk reward, yesterday we got out of it with our card because of the risk reward setup. What's going on in Europe is really stunning. So I have to rethink that. And what I probably will do is if I see some natural gas trades going through, then I don't know who's beeping around there, but I have no idea what that is. But then we'll see how that plays out. Okay. All right. This is okay. And this is why I'm not on Facebook. Right. And I think that parents, this is my personal opinion, this is nasty stuff. Okay. Shame on you, Facebook. I'm just saying. All right. He's cranky. Right. Of a pal Jim. Wow. He doesn't like China at all. Well, yeah. Okay. But then now he's kind of neutral. This is a perma bull here, and he's kind of neutral. It's almost time to start buying because, when Jim Cramer says, nah, you know what I mean? Just saying. But it's almost like, okay, this is the last straw to see Jim saying this. I don't know. I was kind of unimpressed with Apple. You know what I mean? We know the stats, 76% running into the announcement, Apple goes up, but Apple didn't though. It peaked in the beginning of September. It was already down. And now I don't know, it's a sloppy, choppy shit show. I do have Apple puts on because of statistics are statistics. I wasn't impressed. I had my 10 and it cracked, and it was cheaper for me to buy a 12 Max Pro. And there ain't no way I'm buying a 13. I got a new iPad too as well. Everything was on sale. Why would I? I don't know. So this is going to be interesting. You got some people saying, yeah, this is fantastic. And yeah, meh. I'm in the meh category, to be honest with you. All right, this I can't. I just clicked it off. Anyways, there was an article that said that the vast majority of Chinese investors have no idea what they're doing. Oh, it's crazy. That's what it was. All right, if you are so inclined to figure out what the hell is going on with the tax increases, go to Politico. Billions blown as Macau casino. Well, we got to talk about it, right? This is the elephant in the room. All right, let's talk. All right, gaming licenses expire next June. Okay, we know that. Check, check. So the number and duration of the licenses are in question. Tighter supervision, yada, 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 yada. Okay, so the question we have is this enough to knock these gaming stocks down to the level of the pandemic when it first started last year in February, March of 2020? My inclination is yes. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. All right. Wow. Who knew? Republican states like the tax credit, child tax credit. Who knew? And this continues, this is a nice tailwind for a lot of what you would see on in terms of like for school, yada, yada, yada. A lot of the restaurants, I just think it's fascinating to see that a lot of these states who bitch and moan, basically, they like it. Utah, Idaho, South Dakota, Alaska, Nebraska, Wyoming, North Dakota, Iowa, Kansas, and Montana. Florida too. All right, let's talk. This is where I get really ticked off, okay? Because people don't listen and pay attention, right? There never was on the table a hike in the Fed funds ever, ever, ever until 2022, end of 2022. And it's simple. And now coming out and say, oh, there's not going to be a rate hike. This is not news. The only thing that matters is the dot plot as well as the taper talk. And all you have to do is go in here and see, okay, September 2022, 73.6% say we don't raise rates. November 2022, 66% say we don't raise rates. December of 2022, okay, this is where it goes. And this is, I think, accurate. We will not see any rate hike, okay, until end of December into February. And to even think 2023, to even think that this is new news, seriously, people don't pay attention. It really ticks me off. And people trade off of this. It's not new, right? Just because of what happened yesterday, I have no idea what's going to go on with the Fed, okay, with some of these weaker economic data. I think they still taper. I just don't think it's going to be as much. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. And we'll know next week. Now, if they don't taper, whoa, that market will not like that at all. I don't even know if it's going to like just a modest taper. I don't know. What's built in? I think a lot of it's already built in. Okay, let's go. Let's look at our peeps. This is why I like tip ranks. It shows me the tops breed, 70+% success rate, analyst average return. I like it, right? SE was upgraded from our friends at Stifel, LAUR, BMO, KNX, Night Transportation. Interesting, Cowan, Jason. A lot of women. Jason was busy overnight. Okay, SNDR, WERN, and KNX. It just happens to be a 79% success. Well, the average return at 28.6%. Baba got upgraded by Scott. I know, but sorry. I'm not going to touch. Okay, well, as we see it right across the board. No green. It wasn't even I would have thought there would be a little bit more in consumer staples, the defensive, right? Healthcare, consumer staples, the utility, but no, it wasn't there. Quickly, let's see what our gal's up to. Just buying Zoom, MBTA, right? Selling Edit, IOVA. It's kind of fun, but it's really not a lot. I mean, it's like, whatever. Zoom, but she's adding it across the board. I kind of like that, right? And what else we got? No, it's, you know, it's uninspiring. I mean, it's plus 10, I mean, 45 shares, that's zero, right? That's, and that also was her Israeli fund. She has an Israeli fund. Yeah. Okay, moving along. Something happened. Guess what? For the first time, fourth longest ever in over 90 years, the streak has ended. 210 consecutive days in terms of momentum on the upside. 75% of the S&P, right, was above their long-term averages. Pretty cool. So is that too bad? But what does it mean? Not 60%. It's but 3 months, 6 months, 1 year out. But 3 and 6, 100% up, 2.4 and 1.8. But sloppy choppy with a bias to the upside 1 month out. And here we go. This is the risk reward table, right? The risk is higher than the reward. Risk higher than the reward. But look at 3 and 6 months out, 91%. Only 2 losses during the next 3 to 6 months. Pretty cool, right? And this is why you don't pick a top on a quantitative easing bull market. Smart money, dumb money. This is fascinating. Okay, so dumb money beat out smart money in this rally. Now dumb money saying, I'm out of here, and smart money starting to buy. I love it. I love it when the dumb money kind of kicks smart money's ass, because dumb money is usually some measies. Breath, turning greener and greener and greener. I love this setup. This is going to be fantastic tailwind for this market. The more and more deeper green this gets, the breadth. We want to see green in the 50. We want to see green in the 200. I don't know if we're going to get it, but we've got clear skies all the way through in the 50. And this is what creates the momentum on the upside. Okay, what do we got? US 20, yada, yada, China 20, 21, you know, this is the map, here we go. XRT retails in the teens. This is interesting. Single digits is MJ. And to be honest with you, I have zero interest in buying any marijuana stocks, right? I want to see single digits in XRT. That'll be exciting. The diamond, yeah, XLI, and natural gas kicking ass. And to be honest with you, I know this sounds crazy, but you know me, it's a commodity, right? When nobody wants to sell, I want to sell. And when nobody wants to buy, I want to buy. Nobody wants to sell. So I'm actually thinking of doing a short natural gas trade and basically buying KOLD. I'm just thinking about it. It's getting really close. I mean, I really am excited about that. Fund flows, money out of the queues. Well, okay. Utilities, consumer staples, SPY. This has a long way to go with all the money that was coming into it. Buying not a whole hell XOP. Wow. Woo. Nothing there. All right. 58.42. Interesting. A lot of QQQ hedges were put on yesterday. This beak was interesting. That's a put hedge that was put on. But don't forget quadruple witching, quad witching. There is stuff going through. I can't even begin to explain what it means. This is why this week you cannot really look at these sweeps, because you don't know if they're rolls, you don't know if it's paper replacement, you don't know what it is, what it means. Who knows, right? I don't know. So you just put your head down, you follow Spartan or one of the bots. It basically, and we've been doing really well out of the gate when we saw momentum coming in on individual small caps, low floats on the retail side, and that's been working, right? So that's what we're going to continue to do. And next week, we'll see if we get some clarification. But to be honest with you, there really isn't any high setups for me until middle of October. Okay, just saying. Let's see what the hype's up. Man, I'm clicking down a lot of stuff. I'm kind of ticked about that. Okay, let's move on. All right, option sonar. This is the memes, right? What do we got? A lot of buying, SPRT, AMC, BBIG. I like BBIG, but don't forget, 2024 has opened up, right? And a lot of the stocks now have further dated 2023s, like June, September 2023s as well. So they have the quarterly stuff that's coming. Okay, all right, just saying. All right, so what do we got? The stock volume has been pretty light, right? And don't forget, OCGN was higher, but with the Yom Kippur starting tonight, a lot of the participants will be leaving early because it is the holiest of days for us Jews. So don't be aware that things will start to thin out in South Beach and myself. Well, I won't be in tomorrow. Okay, I just say. And let's take a look. Okay, so swaggy stocks. I want to bring this to your attention. This is when you start looking at maximum pay on a quad witching type event or OPEX, which is monthly, right? And you want to see, all right, so like say, and I talked about this, you want to look at whatever stock you're looking at. What is the maximum pay where both puts and calls lose money? And on Apple, it's 145. And I think that can get there, right? VXN popped a little bit, dropped a little bit, now kind of in the mid. We're in the mid of this range, this overall large range, but people saying, oh my God, look at all the VIX in the VXX, look at all the protection being put on. That's a bunch of hooey. If they were really putting on some protection, like serious concern, we'd be up here. Yeah, not down here. But on the red flag divergence side, we never really broke down here with the rates. You know, maybe the next rally we get will allow it to break, but you know, not happening. All right, let's take a peek now at, I'm just not having a good time here. All right, so let's look at the bonds, 5-year note. All right, this is the taper one, right? So it hasn't broken down. We're at the bottom end here in terms of yield, high. And I don't think we break down. We may for next week, but I'm not sure. All right, here's a 10-year breaking down below. So we've got some stuff going on in terms of the yield curve. Be aware of that, right? Here's the German rates. They basically got rebuffed at this 38.2% Fib, and now it's coming down. So sloppy choppy, nothing's going to be decided until next week with the FOMC. Right? Nothing's, you know, the market has the yips. Everybody's staying close to flat, neutral. And once again, I think we've already reached neutrality with the 5-year, because don't forget, you know, what we had the sell-off right here, okay, in the beginning of the year, right? This is yields going up. So I think this is equilibrium. And it would have to be, I don't know what it would have to be to get this to break down and for yields to go higher, to be honest with you. All right, let's take a look at the German US 10-year. All right, it actually is gaining against the US, which is fascinating. And this also would be a tailwind on the European side. China. Well, they're not lowering their rates yet, but it's right in the middle here. And we'll have to look at the currency. And you can see here that even China is gaining against the US. Crazy stuff going on, my friends. Let's take a look at the stock futures. All right, sloppy choppy all over the place, right? Overseas is down red, red, red. Singapore is red. China A50, red, 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 red. Nifty 50 is up, up, up. So India's doing fantastic, right? Quickly, DAX still below, coming back into here. I think we come all the way back down here in terms of that. But actually, Fez is holding up fairly well. It's in the middle of the range. There's no risk reward set up right now, for me at least. And I think this is going to be a multi-month sideways consolidation. And then we curl up and we break higher. That's what I'm thinking. IWM against the small caps. Oh, IWM just cracked. Okay, this extension here. This is a monthly extension. This is not a good look. And this tells me that the IWM actually can weaken some more. And what does that mean? That basically overseas, the small caps are going to hold up fine with the IWM selling off. But we have a triple quadruple top here on the EFA weekly. I think we're going to grind around here once again, sideways consolidation right there. All right, let's talk about China. Shanghai, triple top coming back down. Let's see if it breaks below here. I'm not exactly sure about this one, to be honest with you. And this just goes that internally, that the Chinese market's doing fine. It's basically these ETFs with foreign investors that are all over the place. FXI actually doesn't look as bad, but it, on a monthly, it looks like a bear flag, right? So we have to see how that plays out. KWEB failed to hold, breaking down, the drill. This looks like the dreaded H. I know I don't want to say it, but this is a weekly KWEB, right? Bobolicious, the dreaded H as well. Breaking the bear flag extension here. The next line here is basically coming down here. We'll see what holds up. When it's all said and done, the only thing that matters with BABA is whether it holds last month's low. I mean, that's it. And until that time, we're basically in a nasty range, and you try and trade it because I have no interest. I think I need a new battery here for my mouse because it's doing all kinds of clicky things. All right, so this is the range. And we're at the lower quadrant. We have to see. So let's take a look. This is what I've been talking about right now is BABA, KWEB, BABA against the world. BABA is weakening against KWEB. BABA is weakening against JD. All right. BABA is weakening against CQQ. This is a big deal here. And you can see the dreaded H, right, on this one clearly, right? BABA against FXI, breaking down, H as well, bear flag. BABA against KWEB, we already did that one. And BABA against A shares, breaking down, right? BABA against CWEB. So this CWEB is BABA, Tencent, leverage 2 times, right? It's even weakening on that one. Okay. BABA against chicks. You can see it. Not looking good. What's the theme here? So right now, BABA's weakening across the board, continues to weaken. This is the narrative that I've had, and this is why I have a hedge of BABA against my portfolio. I had Yang on. I got out of it yesterday, which is a leverage inverse ETF. I had some CWEB puts on. I got out of that yesterday. I just have the BABA, and I have some KWEB puts on, and we'll see how this plays out. So the moral of the story is, and this is why I want to talk about this, is that when and if we get a meaningful low, well, we're going to get one, we just don't know when, right? BABA would be the one that ricochets higher. That's when we know that this is done, okay? Because we would start to see BABA reclaiming some of the gain against some of the ones that it's basically been shorted against. So BABA is the shorting vehicle as a hedge. All right, Las Vegas Sands, let's take a break. Okay, all right. This is really kind of interesting. You can see where we are. Take a deep breath, everybody. You know the drill, multi-month, multi-year consolidation pattern, and it's breaking it. Las Vegas Sands, notable. So what does that mean? Well, if you look at it, okay, on the breakdown here, if indeed, right, it can go down a lot, okay? One more here is win against Las Vegas Sands. Win is losing, it has been gaining, but as you can see right here, it should roll over, and win also is looking not so good. So Las Vegas Sands is actually the weakest of the Macau names. All right, my time is up. Welcome once for those of you who are joining us pre-market and new members. It's time for me to pass it on to Spartan. Are you ready, sir?
I just need 1 minute, Beth, just reloading my platform here.
Not a problem. Okay, so let's talk. FANG. We talked about this failed breakout, right? Coming back in. But this is a monthly, right? So, on a risk reward, we're kind of in no man's land or no person's land right now. So we have to just keep an eye on this. I can't get all excited right now. All the pullbacks, right? The individual tickers, individual stocks, those who are pulling back, right, are down like 10, 15, 80%, 20%. The indices as a whole is just, I only look at them as a hedge. And I think that's really important that you understand this from an overall viewpoint. It's individual momentum tickers, right? And that's what Spartan's brilliant at. So you breakouts and breakdowns, and there are plenty of stocks that were taken to the woodshed that are starting to reclaim some support, starting to break out on the momentum on the upside. And those that basically, and it's really almost impossible to say, okay, well, this is the rotation into XYZ. Every day is a new day, right? Every day we see something different in terms of what rotation looks like. And there hasn't been a theme. The only theme we have had for the last few weeks is low floats, small cap, retail buying, micro cap, bios, baby bios, right? Every single day we see them like little soldiers, buy calls, on certain tickers and buy puts on certain tickers. That's what we've seen. And that's what we've been trading. And a lot of those fall into what Spartan does because it's on his scanners. He's seeing it as well. Right? So this is the theme. Right? On the overall overreaching, overall the market's going to go higher. I mean, it's just, you know, even if we get a 5 to 10% correction, who cares? Right? In terms of, you know, where you want to put your money. If you put your money in cash, it's a negative yield because of inflation, right? So this is all going to settle itself out. Pullbacks are actually really healthy. It's not the end of the world, right? But like I say, our job here is to make sure that we can give you opportunity to be successful. And this is what we see. All right, let's take a look at the Nasdaq. Okay, this is the weekly trend line. This is notable. Okay, if we now what I'm thinking is we'll take it one step at a time. All right, so if the Nasdaq does break, this is a weekly, so break and hold below this. You can see how the uptrend line, the extension here. All right, so we take it one step. All right, so what would be the first level of support? The breakout here, which would be 1.5. It's just 1.5%. Okay, on this breakout. If that fails, then we're talking about further down, and more than likely, this would be a reversion to the mean. So on a reversion to the mean, we would see a basically 3.8% continuation on the downside. So, you know, potentially a 5% all when it's all said and done, 5+%. Russell never did anything. It's still sideways consolidating here, right? And to be honest with you, I think that in the next leg of the market, when it goes up, it will be the Russell, and I'm still going to say that. Valuation, small caps, what do you want to talk in? I don't know. I mean, I think that, you know, I know the market loves these growth mega cap narratives and stuff, but this is a month, this has been going on for a year, right? When this thing blows, it's going to be really quite something. Here's the Dow Transports. It is leading on the downside, double top here. This is a monthly. Okay, reversion to the mean would be another 11% down. So we're seeing that the Dow is giving up. And a lot of that has to do with the transports, right? We're seeing that there's fractures happening on in the transport side, right? Let's take a look at the SPY. This is a monthly as well. It is at this monthly uptrend line that goes back to the beginning of the year. So this is going to be interesting. Excuse me. Breaking back down here, 3.85%. But if it does revert back to the mean, the S&P has 15%, and the Qs only has 4%. What does that tell you? Everybody's loaded up on the S&P. Okay, so if the market does roll over, right, it would be the S&P that would have the largest pullback in terms of reversion to the mean. I'm just saying, right? Dow Transports, monthly. All right, so, we got an extension here. You know what? I'm still thinking it's going to do this, but, you know, it looks like it's going to probably revert to the mean and then go up. All right, now, what does that look like in terms of a pullback here? You know, reversion to the mean? That would be 9%, or it's 10%. So you can see the different things. So S&P top dog, right? The Dow was the second, and then comes the Qs, and then comes the Russell. Isn't this crazy? I know. Transports. Ugh. Okay, let's see what we got going on. All right, so it's still holding up, believe it or not, this is a monthly, right? The breakout that we had back in February. This would be I think, the indication that indeed we are going to be continuing to revert back to the mean. Okay.
All right, Beth, I'm ready to come on.
All right, my friends, enjoy.
All right, guys, what's going on? Morning. Thank you, Beth, so much. Let me just pop up the screen share here, guys, for you. So if you guys are new to chat, just coming in today, make sure to click the Discord link that was emailed to you. If you guys don't see it, it's in your junk mail. When you guys do come in, click on that disclaimer section, then click on that new to chat information section at the top left and go through that information there. We'll go through it after I've closed down the YouTube stream later on, though. So let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. A couple different things. BGNE, mRNA, and Microsoft Win, Mara, IRNT. BGNE announces the US FDA has granted accelerated approval for the relapsed or refractory marginal zone lymphoma. Stocks gapping up on that. mRNA gapping up specifically with the Pfizer and BioNTech in regards to their expected US approval of their COVID-19 vaccine in November for, I think, kids 6 to 12, I think it was. Microsoft to buy back 60 billion worth of shares. Hikes dividend by 11%. Stocks gapping up nicely on that. Win gapping down in continuation from last day's move. Mara gapping up slightly in continuation. Ended up in sympathy with Bitcoin, and then IRNT basically gapping up on their earnings. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So first two we're going to be looking at, guys, are BGNE and mRNA. BGNE, mRNA. mRNA is just something, it's not gapping up a ton, but I just love to trade this name. It's always a good vehicle to trade intraday. So this BGNE gapping up to all-time highs here. Interesting. It looks like light volume this morning, but it actually is decently robust on the gap up, especially compared to normal. So relatively speaking, I should say. Let's plot that 380 Jane. Okay. I think I got what I need. For the upside, at least. Yeah, let's go intraday here. Or sorry, on the daily. Let's get some levels of support. Pivot point. All right, let's take a look at this thing intraday here. So BGNE, quite the gap up here. 404.27. Okay, so pivot to the upside today is going to be this 388.46 level. Level's able to hold. 397.76. That level breaks. We can see that 404 level tested. Unable to hold. Look for a pullback on BGNE into the 382.87, the 376.03 on the downside. Overall on BGNE, going to be leaning on the bullish side today. Looking for a continuation push higher. Decent news. All-time high range breakout. It's the main thing that I'm looking at there for continuation. As long as you can hold above that pivot point, I think we can see a continuation push to the upside today. So that's what I'll be looking at. Let's take a look at the next name here. mRNA. Let's see. What's up, guys? Just gonna throw it up on the side chart as well. There we go. Okay, so mRNA stocks gapping up slightly here. Let's take a look at the daily just real quick. I got my levels typically labeled on this because I trade it every day. Yep. That's good. 419. Okay. Place one more level. Just that EMA support level on the daily. I want to label it just in case we need it. We'll go pivot to the upside today. The 427 level's able to hold. We got room towards the 434.04, then back towards 444.96 on the upside. Unable to hold. 419.77 to 413.62 will be tested on the downside. Overall on mRNA going to be leaning on the bullish side today. Daily charts holding up, is actually holding EMA support, creating a flag on the short-term hourly and daily chart. And we'll see if it's able to actually break through it to the upside. So going to be leaning bullish in that regard. And let's actually draw that little downtrend as well. Be approaching it shortly. So that's mRNA, that is BGNE. Let's take a look at the next two. Screenshot of these real quick. The next two, Microsoft and Win. Love this Microsoft daily chart here. Beautiful. Very bullish. Should be around right here. Okay, let's take a look at this thing intraday. Perfect. All right, so 304.27 pivots to the upside today. This level is able to hold. We got room to the all-time high level at, let's call it 306. It's like 350 or 305 something, but it's really close to that. That's fine. 304.27 holds, room towards 306.02 to 307.37. Unable to hold 302.37 to the 364 level will be tested on the downside. Overall, Microsoft leaning bullish, neutral, looking for a continuation grind higher into the all-time highs, and I do think we can take them out today. So that's what I'll be looking for. Let's take a look at Win here. So Win stock is gapping down again. Let's take a look at that daily chart. I think we are right into that 87.52. Actually, we did gap below it this morning. Let's take a look. Let's go back a little bit. All right, let's take a look at this thing intraday. So when gapping down, pivot to the downside today is going to be that 87.59. This level is able to be reclaimed. We do have room back towards 90.24 to that 93.47 level. Unable to hold, we get room towards 85.33 to the 82.10 level on the downside. Overall on Win, it is going to be extended to the downside today. So we'll be leaning a little bit on the bullish neutral side for a bounce. So be looking for a pull out the gate this morning, and then one of these support levels to hold some basing, and then for a little bit of a bounce after that. It may just bounce out the gate. We'll see. But it certainly does have some room to bounce based off of that extension. So going to be leaning a little bit on the bullish neutral side after a pull. So that is Microsoft. That is Win. Let's take a look at the next two names. Mara and that IRNT. Interesting. It's kind of a tight range that Samara's in, actually. So it's holding 15 May support, bouncing up a little bit, trying to retest this downtrend in the short term. Guess the short-term downtrend is technically breaking right now. She pushed it out to last day's low. The level did hold. All right, so pivot to the upside today, guys, is going to be this level right here. 36.21, this level is able to hold. You do have room for continuation into that 37.16 level of resistance on the upside. Able to break 37.98. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on Mara into the 35.25 to 34.23 on the downside. Overall on Mara, going to be leaning on the bullish side today. Looking for a continuation push higher. If that pivot point can be reclaimed and held this and held this morning. Do have that downtrend break that seems to be holding up. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But 36.21 is going to be the main level to be watching. All right, let's take a look at this IRNT. So gapping up on their earnings. I'm gonna have to go back and label intraday here. See if there's anything on the hourly that makes sense to use during pre-market time. This would be okay. Let's take a look at this intraday. Pivot to the upside today is going to be that 25 level. Unable to hold, we're towards 2250 to 1944. Able to hold, we look for a pushback or push continuation towards 2782 to 2995 on the upside. Overall on IRNT, going to be leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. So that is Mara and that is IRNT. All right, let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. Let's see what's going on with the market. So SPY gapping down, or was gapping down slightly. Push back up. All right, let's see where we got room to today. I'm actually going to do this so we can see what's going on the daily chart as well at the same time. So market is gapping back up, I guess, slightly. Does have that 50 MA as a magnet, fairly controlled selling still on the downside. You can see the downtrend channels intact. Should probably just do this so you can see it. Whoa. So we're operating within that downtrend channel for now. I think we will be until we hit the 50 MA, then we'll see what's what. 444.69 is going to be the pivot to the downside today. This level is able to hold. We're towards 445.26 to 446.16. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback towards 443.76 to the 442.81 on the downside. Potentially, if you get to the bottom of that channel, we will retest it. Overall, right now, this morning, going to be leaning a little bit bullish, neutral out the gate, looking for a push and a retest of the top of the channel there. And then if we can, I doubt we get through it today. I think we'll probably get rejected and trade within that channel back to the downside. But we'll see what happens when we do get to that top end level. So 44.69 pivot to the upside today. We'll see what happens. So looking for a push to the top of the channel, and then obviously rejection, pull back in within it. And then we can probably grind lower the rest of the day. Let's take a look at Apple. I guess I'll be leading bearish then, right? Looking for a pop and then topping. Let's take a look at Apple here. So Apple, we did get that 50 MA retest yesterday, which was obviously a huge level of support, and that's notable. I'm just going to delete some of this stuff. All right, let's get rid of that completely. All right, so market 146.83, or sorry, Apple 148.63 support, 148.07. Pivot to the upside today is going to be 149.07. That level is able to hold. We got room to retest this 150.01 level to the 151.11. Unable to hold. 148.07, 146.83 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Apple, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can be reclaimed. Like the fact that that 50 MA is holding on the daily, obviously strong support. And I think, well, from what we've seen in the past, institutions do like to buy off that 50 MA support. So we'll see if it holds up and we get continuation back to the upside here. So that's Apple. Let's take a look at Amazon. All right, Amazon guys, pivot to the upside today. So what do we got? We got a little bit of a flag on the daily that's occurred. Pivot to the upside is going to be the 34.55.70 levels able to hold. We got run towards 34.84.55 on the upside, unable to hold 34.31.67 will be tested back on the downside. AK retesting some EMA support on the daily. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a hold of the pivot or reclaim of the pivot and a push higher. It does have some major EMA support that's being held here and being tested. So I think it can hold it and bounce a little bit. Technically, Amazon could be creating a flag intraday as well. So I think that doesn't look half bad. Let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix broke EMA support on the downside yesterday, confirmed by closing underneath it, 575.11. Pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. We got room for continuation towards that 567 level on the downside, able to hold. Look for a pushback towards 582.65. Going to be leaning bearish on Netflix, looking for a continuation lower today. So basically want to see it retest the pivot, break it to the downside, and get us our next leg down. So that is Netflix. Let's take a look at Facebook. Facebook 375.26, unable to hold. We're in towards 371.43, able to hold 379.17 to 382.99 will be tested on the upside. Overall on Facebook, going to be leaning on the bearish, actually bullish neutral side today. EMA support intact on the daily, holding the weekly range. Then we can get a little bit of a bounce back to the upside. Yesterday was fairly consolidative. So we'll have to pay attention to that pivot. If it does break, then obviously it can come in a little bit. Google pivots. So a little bit of a flag forming too, similar to Facebook, but a little bit of a nicer chart. 28.47.76 pivot levels able to hold, room back towards 28.64, unable to hold 28.22 will be tested on the downside, leaning bullish neutral on that. All right, let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, IWM. Oh, big little bit of a pull on mRNA, guys. Maybe some news just came out. Looks like probably. Let's see. Don't see anything yet. Watch for it though. Unless it was just a random sell, but it looks like it's pretty robust. So what do we have on the VIX? Not extended, holding EMA support, actually creating a little bit of a flag in the short term, which we must pay attention to. This little downtrend that's going to be probably tested today at some point. 1987 pivot levels able to hold 2078. Unable to hold 1856 will be tested on the downside. Not leaning any direction, but we're using the VIX for direction on the market as we do every single day. Obviously, if pivots reclaimed, this downtrend's broken, we would expect the market to come in. What I'd like to see on the VIX is today, maybe it'll pull back towards 1856 and then a retest of that downtrend, which would coincide with the market pushing into the upper end trend, getting rejected, and then pulling back. All right, so that's the VIX. Let's take a look at the Qs. All right, guys, QQQ. 375.24 pivot levels able to hold. Oh, 375.24 levels is able to hold. We have room for continuation back towards 378.33 on the upside. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 373.86 on the downside. Overall on the QQQ, going to be leaning on the, I would say, bearish neutral side today. 377, we are below. I need to label this one level here. Going to be leaning bearish if that pivot point can hold, I should say. Bearish neutral if the pivot point can't hold on the Qs. Don't really like that daily. Has a lot more room than the SPY to the downside, and it is below EMA support. So that's my rationale behind that. And lastly, let's take a look at the IWM. So IWM, of course, breaking the 50 EMA, breaking EMA support in the short term on the downside. Mark last day slow and steady, get rid of that. 216.94. Other end support. Okay, good. So what do we got? We got the pivot as 220.23. This all was able to hold. You got room back towards the 221. 221.68 on the upside. Unable to hold. Look for a pullback towards 219.04 to that 217.51 on the downside. Overall on the IWM, actually we're leaning on the bullish neutral side today. I think we can get a little bit of a bounce today. It's going to open up slightly extended. 222 would be the fill of the gap. And then once it does, then I think we could curl back to the downside, but leaning bullish neutral at the gate just for that gap fill. And then we'll see what's what. All right, so that's the SPY, it's a FANG. Those are the individual names we're looking at today, guys. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Salt Beach while I type up the pre-market action plan. Then we'll do a quick little recap for the open. Salt Beach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Hey guys, all right, so Wednesday, let's see what we're looking at today. Let's look at the bonds. This thing would cooperate. All right, so the 10 years at one is unchanged at 1.28. So with all the BS that's going on, all the inflation worries, all the nonsense, all the crap, we're still at 128. All right, so what are the bonds telling you? I think the bonds are telling you that all this inflation nonsense on TV is wrong. Okay, and that maybe Powell's right. I think that's what it's telling me anyway. The 5-year, 10-year spread is actually a little lower than it was yesterday, flatter, I should say. The bonds just don't reflect inflation. I mean, you look overseas, you got a 0.75 in London, a 0.01. The bond in Germany's flat at minus 0.32. Japan flat, actually minus at 0.03. There's no inflation, okay? And additionally, these governments are racking up debt like nobody's business by giving away money. They can't really afford to let the bond get out of control, because if they do, then it's going to eat up too much of their free cash flow, basically, servicing the debt. So it's a fine line they have to draw. And if rates were to go nuts on the upside, there would be a serious problem. And then you have an administration that wants to spend an additional $3.2 trillion. The whole thing's a mess. Washington, for a change, is out of touch. But that's how it goes, right? Let's see what else is going on. Okay, let's look at commodities. We have oil up $1.26. Certainly the oil market is in fuego, right? That shows plenty of inflation. It's at the top of the range. All right. And since April, I guess it's up, it's been in that 65, 75 range. Now it's 71. But certainly oil, you wouldn't call it cheap at this point. And natural gas is just bonkers on the upside. Up another 18 cents today at 5.44. Just to give you some sense, in April it was 2.50. Okay. In June, it was $3. And now it's 5.44. Okay. So someone's on the wrong side of this trade, that's for damn sure, and getting their brains bashed in. You can if you look at that chart, you can smell the pain that some funds are going after here, okay? Copper is up 3 cents at 4.35, in the middle of its trading range between 4 and 4.75. Lumber broke that $5 range, it's at 4.71, lower than pre-pandemic levels. Don't really get that, and especially with the hurricanes down south where they're going to need to use a lot of lumber to rebuild, you would think that lumber would be higher, and it's not. So you see inflation in certainly natural gas. You can make an argument maybe for oil, but these other commodities seem to be okay. What else do we have? Let's look at the currency market. Dollar's down against North America, or down against the yen, down against the Chinese currency, and down against the euro, okay? And this 3.2 or 3.5 or whatever the hell they're talking about, $1 trillion spending bill, is just destroying the currency, okay? And that's that. Crypto up again. We got up 2% in Bitcoin and up 1.5% in Ethereum. You got Gary Gensler going to talk about it today, about regulation and stuff like that. So that's what's going on in the foreign markets. Let's see what's doing there. The FTSE's flat. The DAX is flat. The Nikkei is down 0.5%. China's down, what are they down? 1%. They're down for the year now, as is Hong Kong's flat for the year. So that's what's doing with the foreign markets, and that's that. Okay. Banks and Fed. So you have a Fed meeting next week. They're going to discuss tapering. My guess is they kick the can down the road because the numbers are, you have the pandemic still alive and well, but and inflation seems under control based on the CPI numbers and stuff that's coming in. So I think they kick the can down the road for another month. And we'll see what happens in November, but that's just my opinion. That could be wrong, but I think they do nothing. They say we're on watch, et cetera, and we'll see what's doing with that. Okay, so that's the Fed. China. So now they're winning Las Vegas Sands. I've warned you guys for, I don't know, months that they're going to go after these two companies. They're going to go after the casinos. It only makes sense. Okay. You cannot invest in Chinese companies at any price. Period. Okay. They're pure, unadulterated garbage because the Chinese government wants them to be. Not that they are, but the Chinese government doesn't want them making money. They don't want them to do what they do. And that's what it is, okay? And they're going to go after Las Vegas Sands and win Macau a lot harder than they have, okay? And I don't know how it's going to end, but they're talking about at the end of the year, their licenses come up and they have to renew 6 of them. Don't be so sure who's going to get the license and how it's going to play out and what they're going to be allowed to make and the margins they're allowed to acquire. Or do they have to change the you know, the payout ratios on slots and stuff like that, you don't know. All right. They want them to be more environmentally and I don't know, all kinds of crap. Okay. That affects their earnings. That's it. When the government's against you and they call the shots, you can't buy the stocks. And I see you guys every day, buy and win, buy and less. They're going south. Okay. These are great companies, but it doesn't matter. They're going south. And the verbiage that I saw on TV today is they're going to go after cosmetic companies. It seems as though they want everybody wearing no makeup, you know, like little robots. If that's what they want, you can't make money in China. Okay. That's what she talked about today on TV, the gal that's in China. She says now there's verbiage about the cosmetic companies. All right. That can't be good, right? Another thing. So who knows? I don't know how it's going to play out. These are fine companies. The Chinese people are great people, but the government doesn't want corporate America making money. That's the way it stands. Okay. And it's not changing anytime soon, unless he takes a mea culpa and says, I'm wrong, I shouldn't have done this, which is not happening, or he somehow is not in office anymore, which isn't happening either. So that's that. What else do we have? Crypto. Crypto, it seems like it's in a Super Bowl market. I mean, what else can you say, right? People, every time it gets bashed, it comes back. And I don't know how it's going to play out, but it seems to be a bull market. Oil, same thing. The virus, you had Gottlieb on today. He says this is the last big wave that he sees, but COVID's going to be with us for a very, very long time. Okay, so you have to come up with different things. He was talking about inoculating children as young as 6 months on TV today, which was a real shocker to me. Okay, I don't know what to make of that. I'm not a doctor, and I don't know what to make of it. And I'm just reporting what he said. Okay, so I'm going to leave any opinion on that to the doctors, but this is what he said, and this is a real surprise. I mean, I heard kids 12, 12. Now I'm hearing 5 to 12. And he talked about children 6 months old, which is really quite a shock to me. Okay. Dollar, we discussed, it's getting smashed because spend. And then you have Mr. Market from yesterday. So what was decent yesterday? High PE tech was fine and semis were fine. You know, they were a little mixed, but on the better side. And high PE tech was a little mixed, but on the better side. And pretty much everything else was in the red. So entertainment, Chinese stocks, HMOs, hospitals, books, insurance, big oil, E&P, machinery, cyclicals, gambling, entertainment stocks got smashed yesterday. So it was a rough day for the markets, but not too terrible. I mean, the averages were only down, 20 handles. It looked worse or felt worse than it was. You look at the Qs and they look fine to me. Still in a bull phase. SPYs, I could say the same thing for. The ones that give me pause are the IWMs, which kind of look heavy, and the transports, which look even more heavy than the Russell stocks. All right, the index looks pretty heavy. That's a leading indicator, of course, transports, and we'll see how it plays out. Look, we're in a rough period of the year. I think it would actually be healthy for the market to have a few weeks of weakness. DJT, watermelon. Okay. On your machine, it might be a different symbol, but that's what I look at. I think it would be actually healthy for the market if we had a couple of weeks to a few weeks of weakness, because you can't just go straight up. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, right? So I think that's good for the markets, and we'll see what happens. And then I think you get a rally into year end. I mean, look, nothing's really changed. Okay, the bond market is trading at a level that's below inflation, so you can't put your money in bonds. And stocks are still the best game in town. That doesn't mean they have to go up every day. Okay, and you could have a correction, and it's not going to change a damn thing. All right. So keep that in mind. Cash is trash, right? And equities have been the best way to navigate things, and I don't think that's changing anytime soon. But to have a little bit of a correction, to me, makes sense, right? Okay, it's not a bad thing. Corrections are not bad; they just feel bad at the time, but at the end of the day, you'll end up making more money in your loss. Okay. What else is going on here? All right, let's see. You had numbers in JKS, they were good. And like every day we come in, there's a spattering of biotech stocks that had good news and ones that didn't have good news. So what did we have today? Let's see. Or a bunch of them. Let me see if I can find it. I'm just not a fan of the biotech sector, only because I think it's too hard for a normal person that doesn't look at these things 24/7 to really have a chance against the professionals. So what'd you have? BPTS, Hook, Sage, OPGN, BGNE, OBSV, Regeneron, all had good news, in their some kind of positive biotech news. YOU had a strategic partnership, that's up on that. Kramer kind of panned it either last night or the night before. He thought it was too highly valued. And he's really good at that stuff, in my opinion. And Microsoft's up today because of the buyback, and they increased their dividend, and it's a fantastic company, I guess. And on the short side, you had negative news out of Macau. So Melco is down, Win is down, LVS is down, MGM is down. All right, what else happened? This KAVL, that's a disaster du jour in the biotech. Yeah, not so bad though. It's only $1.77. TBPH, CDXC, another one, patent infringement case. And then there's a truckload of secondaries, okay, which I've been warning you about. So IPOs, we have 9 of them, and we have 10 secondaries. That's a lot of money to suck out of equity, the market, okay, and putting into these things. So, but some of these deals don't look bad because they're in a market that's as sloppy as this one. They're priced above the indication, like BROS and DH. But limited to time, I really couldn't research it. Just too much in one morning. PRCT, same thing. That was priced above the indication as well. And on the secondary, you have APG. ASO is probably a company worth watching. That's a really solid company. This HUT did a deal. I know some of you guys are following that. I would use the line of the deal, 855. LYV did a deal. There's just a ton of them. Okay, so a huge secondary new issue calendar. Like I said, yesterday Citibank came out and said something about their trading revenues were kind of not so hot. So they're not making that much money trading, right? And this is their bread and butter, these IPOs and secondaries. This is what's keeping them going. Okay, so they're pumping these things out as fast as they can. All right, Goldman made an acquisition today of one of these Affirm type companies, buy now, pay later, which was surprising. You don't see Goldman usually do stuff like that. Green Sky, GSKY, right? Thanks, Beth. So I thought that was kind of interesting. What else do we have? Research-wise, when we run through this, Chevron was downgraded. It wasn't a hard downgrade. Target 111 at JP Morgan. That's really it on the short side. It was all a bunch of nonsense. Let's look at the long side. Crocs, everybody loves Crocs. Piper's the high guy on the street. They have a 212 target. Stock's 149. It shows you a consumer brand when it gets hot, and it's like the cool thing to do. Kids love wearing Crocs now. What can happen to a stock? I think this stock went from what, like 30 to where it is now. Just a giant move. Yep. What a move. Amazing. SONN, BTIG initiated this at buy, targets $5. I bought some this morning at like 62 cents or so. Okay, I thought this was a decent call. BTIG is not a bad house. Deutsche Bank looked at some of these steel names, and they're basically saying that, that because people don't want to buy cyclical stocks that have had a great run, they're ignoring how much money these companies are making. And so they like steel. They have a $50 target, stocks $24. 24 bucks, 24 bucks. Take the target from 38 to 50. They also like Steel Dynamics. They take the target up to 98, stock 61. They didn't mention Cliff. I didn't see. They also like MT, target 50, 55. The ones they didn't like were, even the ones they didn't like had higher targets. But like an example of that would be Nucor, which I think is the best of breed, 130 target from 100. Okay. Boeing, Susquehanna likes that, target 300. I think Boeing has almost exhausted every reason for them to shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, these guys are like a joke, but it is what do they call it now? Oligopoly. And even though the what's it called, the Airbus is probably a better product, Boeing can't help but make money going forward. It's just shameful to watch them, the management team. And the last thing I want to talk about is the casino stocks over at Wells Fargo. So they didn't like, they didn't, LVS and Wynn were holds, target 50 and 112 respectively. The thing that shocked me the most was Boyd Gaming. The guy has a 92 target on a $58 stock. You could have bought the stock at, I think, $8 or $10. You also like DraftKings and to a lesser extent MGM and Caesars. Okay, they didn't like Penn. They thought the valuation was too high. They have an 82 target, but the one they really like is this Boyd Gaming. Okay. Listen, if you want to buy casino stocks, buy the US ones. They're great. DraftKings is a fabulous company, right? You can buy that all day long and you don't have to worry about regulation. Okay, so that's it for me, guys. I'm going to hand it back to Spartan. Let's have a good day. Don't overtrade. It gets choppy. Okay, and that's it. Spartan, it's all yours.
Alrighty, South Beach, thank you so much, guys. Morning, what's going on? Let's take a look at that pre-market watches that we have on, and then the action plan, etc. So everything's typed up. You guys can pause the YouTube stream and read this if you would like. You can see all the charts that are posted. Blah 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 blah. There's that, all the FANG, etc. that we went through, as well as on the option side, same thing. Okay, let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. Pre-market tickers on watch. What do we got? A couple different things: BGNE, mRNA, Microsoft Win, Mara, IRNT. BGNE announces the US FDA has granted accelerated approval of the relapse or refractory marginal zone lymphoma. Stocks gapping up on that. mRNA gapping up in sympathy with the Pfizer and BNTX in regards to their expected U.S. approval for their children, and from, I think it was, I guess, 5 to 12 or 6 to 12 in November. Microsoft to buy back 60 billion worth of shares, hikes dividend by 11%. Stocks gapping up on that. Win gapping down a continuation from last day's move. Mara gapping up slightly in continuation and in sympathy with Bitcoin. IRNT gapping up on earnings. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. First two, BGNE, mRNA. So BGNE 388.46 pivot levels able to hold during towards 397.76 to that 404.26 level or 27 level. Unable to hold 382.67 to 376.03 will be tested on the downside. All-time high range breakout on the daily, leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. mRNA 426.99 pivot levels able to hold, moving towards 434.04. That level breaks, we see further continuation of 444.96 on the upside. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on the mRNA towards 419.77 to 413.62 on the downside. Overall on mRNA, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, only if that pivot point can hold. I think we can get a little bit more of a push. Microsoft pivot upside is going to be that 304.27 level. Able to hold, we look for a push towards 306.02 to 307.37. Unable to hold 302.37 to 364 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Microsoft, leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. Win 87.59 pivot level holds, 90.24, 93.47 will be tested. Unable to hold 85.33 to 82.10 on the downside. Overall on Win, going to be leaning on the bullish side, bullish neutral side only if only if we can get a pull this morning. Just because it's going to be extended, I look for a little bit of a bounce. And then after that bounce, probably will roll over, but a little bit of a bounce play setting up from a trading standpoint. Mara and IRNT. Mara 36.21 pivot level holds 37.19. Sorry, 37.16 to 37.98 will be tested. Unable to hold 35.25, 34.23 on the downside. Overall, Mara leaning bullish, looking for a reclaim of the pivot, continuation push higher. IRNT pivot 24.99 level holds, room towards 27.82 to that 29.95 level. Unable to hold 22.50, 19.44 on the downside. Overall, on IRNT leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. SPY pivot to the upside today is going to be 444.69 levels able to hold, 445.26 to 446.16 will be tested. Unable to hold 443.76 to 442.81 on the downside. Overall on the SPY leaning bullish, neutral at the gate, looking for a push back into the upper end part of the channel, then a rejection this morning. I guess I'll be leaning on the bearish neutral side, looking for a pop and topping. Let me just type this out, guys, for you as well. 444.69 pivot to the upside today. Still holds from higher into the 445.26 resistance. Breaks, we see the 446.16 tested. Pivot unable to hold. From lower into the 443.76. Breaks, we see the 442.81 tested. The bearish for a pop, then topping out the gate. Alrighty, so let's take a look at the rest at the FANG, I should say. $149.07 pivot levels able to hold. We got room towards 150.01 to 150.111 on Apple. Unable to hold 148.07 to 146.83 will be retested, aka the 50 MA. Going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side of Apple just because it is holding that 50 MA on the daily, or did test it and hold it yesterday. So I think we can see continuation off of that level. We'll see what happens. Let's take a look at Amazon. Pivot to the upside today. Going to be the 34.55.70 level. Able to hold, room towards 34.84. Unable to hold 34.31.67 will be tested on the downside. Maybe leaning on the bullish neutral side today just because it's holding for now that EMA support on the daily. Let's take a look at Netflix. $575.11 levels able to hold. 582.65 to 590.08 will be tested. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 567.09 on the downside. Overall on Netflix, leaning bullish, looking for continuation higher. Oh, sorry, leaning bearish neutral on Netflix, right? Bearish neutral. Facebook, pivot to the upside today, 375.26 level holds, 379.17 will be tested, unable to hold, 371.43 on the downside. Overall on Facebook, holding last week's range, holding this week's range. EMA support on the daily, leaning bullish, looking for bullish neutral, looking for a push off of the bottom of that range to the upside. It's holding strong for now. And then Google, a little bit of a flag forming on the daily. Pivot 28.47 level holds. You got room towards 28.64 to 28.74. Unable to hold 28.22 on the downside. Let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, IWM before we wrap it up. VIX pivot in 1987 level holds. 20.78 will be tested. Unable to hold 18.56. A little bit of a flag on the daily on the VIX. Watch that downtrend to be tested. Let's take a look at the QQQs. QQQs pivot today is going to be the 375.24. That level holds 377.09 to 378.33 will be tested. Unable to hold 373.86. Going to be leading bearish only if that pivot breaks. And then last but not least, guys, IWM, which we do have the 220.22 pivot. This level is able to hold. We do have room back towards the 221.68. Unable to hold 219.04 will be tested. And it is extended to the downside. So we'll be leading a little bit on the bullish side today. So that is the SPY that's affecting. That's the individual names that we're looking at today. We'll see what happens. If you guys are, just joining us for the YouTube stream, we do this every single Wednesday. So we're going to shut it down now. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Any questions, you can go to SpartanTrading.com. Thanks for watching.